If you're like me, you're always on the lookout for tools and techniques that can help reduce the chances that your code has bugs and make it easier to maintain. Now, value objects are one of my go-to techniques for making sure that my code is easier to maintain, and you can use some of the tools built into Laravel to make working with them a breeze. In this video, we'll discuss how to use value objects in Laravel 12. Hello developers, and welcome to the PHP Architect channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Scott Keck-Warren, and on this channel we discuss a wide variety of topics related to the PHP ecosystem. Make sure you subscribe so you can get our latest videos when they're published. Make sure you hit the little notification icon. Now, at a very high level, value objects are used to represent values that have no conceptual identity of objects inside of our application domain. A value object wraps data and is distinguishable only by its properties. So two value objects with the same properties are generally considered equal. Examples of potential value objects include email addresses, phone numbers, and addresses. Value objects are one of the architectural techniques described as part of domain-driven design. Domain-driven design is a software approach to design complex application domains based on input from domain experts. That being said, you can use value objects anywhere, even without the rest of domain-driven design. When designing value objects, there are three main characteristics that they must adhere to: structural equality, immutability, and self-validation. Now, we've discussed these characteristics at great length in our value objects video, so check that out if you have questions. But today we're just going to focus on the self-validation characteristic because it's what's being used to prevent bad data from being inserted in our database and being pulled back out of our database and into our code. And we'll show you just how to do that after this word from our sponsors. Did you know that downtime costs $427 per minute on average for small businesses and up to $9,000 per minute for medium-sized businesses? And that's every single minute. Honeybadger helps you avoid costly downtime and saves you money by combining error tracking, performance monitoring, uptime monitoring, and more into an easy-to-use platform, helping you fix outages faster than ever. Best of all, Honeybadger is free to get started, and setup takes as little as 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io, that's honeybadger.io. Now, let's say you need to track a user's email address and want to do so using value objects. To do this, you're going to define the email address value object on the screen. This example is extremely basic, but it's important to remember that the value objects can be just this simple. The important piece is that the email address class is validating that the string that's passed to the constructor is a valid email address built using the built-in PHP logic. If you attempt to create a new email address that has an improperly formatted email string, it's going to throw an exception, which is going to prevent that bad data from hitting our code. Now you're set up to make sure that you're always working with valid email addresses, and you don't need a ton of boilerplate code to see if it's valid before you do something with it. Now we just need to wire it up into Laravel. If you've worked with Laravel long enough, you might know that Laravel provides a way to provide a cast array or a cast function in our Eloquent models to define how Eloquent will load the data out of the database and then back into it. Laravel provides a bunch of built-in types like datetime and array, but you can also create custom casts to work with your data. This is done by creating a class that will cast the data from the database into the form you want and then convert it back into a database acceptable format. We'll use the make cast command to create the custom cast for us. This will create a class something like the following, but it of course may have changed since this video was published. This class has two functions: the get function, which casts a value from the database to the class we want to work with, and the set function, which converts the class back to the scalar value for the database. Because you've already created a class to handle validating the email address, you can easily create this basic implementation to cast an email address to and from the database. Then you just need to instruct the model to use the cast. Now you can load up a user in Tinker, and it will have loaded the email into an instance of our email address class. As a word of warning, Eloquent doesn't prevent us from setting the email property to any value, but it might cause warnings that are ignored. To fix this, you want to do some sort of a sanity check on the data as it's passed into the set function, but before we set the property. In this example, we're going to throw an exception if the class isn't correct. As a brief recap, value objects help us reduce bugs by forcing the data in them to be valid. We can use value objects with Laravel by creating custom casts, and remember to check the value being set before you set it to the property. I hope you enjoyed our video. If so, make sure you subscribe, comment, share, and like, as it does help others find us. Other topics you'd like to see us cover? Let us know in the comments below, or send me a message on any of the social media platforms found on my website, scott.keckwarren.com. We would love to hear how we can help you, and it always brightens my day when I hear from a fan. This is Scott Keck Warren for the PHP Architect channel signing off, and reminding you to keep watching, keep coding, and keep reading.